This story didn't happen to me. This is the story about how my dad accidentally solved a murder, and I want to get his story out there one way or another, so here goes. Spring 2014 is a slow season for my father's business. The weather is nice and the roads are clear, which means slow shifts at an auto shop. It was mid-April, around 4 p.m. The wind was pulling in a nice spring breeze when my dad, Bill, was walking along the side of his shop. It happened to overlook a small stream and a running trail, which he enjoyed gazing at near the end of his shift. The side of his building ran along the top of a steep hill which turned into the path. He heard a ruffling in the wind, and about halfway down the hill he sees a big blue tarp. Being very proud of his business and its appearance, he started to climb down the hill. He was just about to grab for it, maybe about 15 feet away, to toss it into the dump when he saw a car pull into the lot. He then turned around and went to go help his customer. When 5:30 p.m. rolls around, he closes up and goes home, forgetting completely about the tarp. The next afternoon, Bill is sitting in his office when 3 policemen come in. They asked my father and his co-workers a bunch of questions about any suspicious behavior they might have seen. Just a quick side note, my dad is extremely charismatic and friendly. He oftentimes talks people into sharing information with him that they really shouldn't. He looks like someone you can trust, and he seemed to always have the insider details about things like this. He used his humor to make people feel comfortable, which helped getting strangers to open up to him. Anyway, so Bill and his co-worker Hank are talking with a female police officer when she lets it slip that a body has been discovered just down the hill. "Oh shit, I was just down there yesterday cleaning. I didn't see any body though," Bill said. "Around what time? Did you happen to see a large blue and white tarp while you were cleaning the area?" she asked intensely. Actually, yeah, I almost grabbed it yesterday, but I ended up getting distracted." She asked him more questions about what time, what he saw, etc. when he asked her if the body was found in the tarp. "Yes, it was. A woman jogging found it this morning around 10:30 a.m. My dad was floored. He was just there yesterday. After a few more questions, the police all head to the crime scene to finish the initial investigation. No one was allowed on the scene, and the police were asking that passerby not take any pictures. Luckily for you guys, my dad took one from his office window. This is what it looked like. You can see near the top of the picture the running trail. Just in front of that is part of the creek that has dried up. There are the officers and such searching for whatever they were searching for. You can also see just left of the officer in black, a teeny shade of blue. That would be the tarp. Flash forward a few days. The police went back to my father's shop. They noticed the security cameras set up around the building, and they were hoping that they might catch something on tape. While transferring the data over, my dad started asking more questions about the murder. He learned that it was a middle-aged man that had been stabbed to death. Not too much to go on. "Hey, you know there are a couple of meth heads that live in this shack behind our shop." Bill started talking about his own predictions for the who did it scenarios. He continued, "Yeah, we have a lot of problems with them, stealing scrap metal from the back, letting their dogs run wild. I even had them threaten to shoot me once when I was spraying their dogs with water to quit the barking. You should check them out." The officer nodded, gathered the rest of his things, and left. "Hey Hank, let's go down there, see if we can find anything cool," my father said to his coworker. Alright, I guess it couldn't do any harm," Hank replied hesitantly. They started down the hill where the trench was found. The grass was flat and the tarp was now gone. They walked around for 15 or so minutes when Bill headed up the stream a little ways. The trail runs under a main road and then leads to a man-made lake. Just under the bridge, the water starts to get heavier and the trees are a bit thicker. He noticed a red Lowe's cart. "I'm taking that for the shop," he thought, as he ran over to pull it out of the stream. Calling Hank over for help, the two of them pull it out and start wheeling it back up the hill. Suddenly, my dad stops. He sees something on the cart. "What is that rusty-looking stuff?" "Hank, stop, look at that fucking cart, is that blood?" They looked closer and, sure enough, blood. It was all over the cart, on the handle, on the wheels, and on the side. But it wasn't only blood they started to notice. This is my father in the first picture. I added an emoji that best fit his facial expression at the time. He was pretending to be Horatio from CSI in that picture. There was hair. Human hair. Utterly stunned, my dad calls the police he had been talking to the previous days and explained what they found. For whatever reason, the PD were very skeptical that this was evidence. At first, they didn't even believe my father. When he told them that it made no sense to make up, they sent out a car. There were 2 police officers and a CSI. The CSI asked my dad why he thought this was blood. "It looks like blood, sir." "I'm not sure. How do you know that is human hair?" the CSI asked. Because it looks like human hair?" my dad snapped sarcastically. Why did he seem so hesitant? They used a chemical test, and sure enough, it tested positive for human blood. They took the car as evidence and thanked my dad. Again, my dad tried to give his opinion on who the mystery killer might be. He suggested, again, that they go talk with the crazy neighbors behind his auto shop. Still no information was taken down, and they left with what they had. 2 more days pass. My dad is leaving the shop to get some things from Costco. There is a small dirt alley that leads to the main road just behind his work. In the past, it had been blocked by one of the meth addicts' car. They were complaining to my dad and his boss about the business driving cars back and forth through the alley disrupting them. He notices it's open and decides to take the shortcut to his destination. But something was off. He saw the usual blocked car sitting in front of the shack. The door was wide open and there was someone sitting on their knees with their upper body inside the car. He got in his car and crept up, just a little, so he could see what was happening. He right away recognized the skinny red-headed woman as the female that lived in the shack. It was the shack guy's wife or girlfriend. He didn't know exactly. She was on her hands and knees surrounded with hard chemicals, bleach, Comet, OxyClean, and much more. My dad had said that he knew right then that they were guilty. For one, why would someone be scrubbing their car with straight chemicals? No water, no rinsing. It was the middle of the day on a hot June afternoon. Second, they happened to be only 2 blocks away from a local car wash. He said it felt off, and he knew to trust his instincts. She just kept scrubbing and scrubbing the passenger side floor. He pulled out his phone and started recording her. Now, he's known this woman and her SO for a few years now. Like I said, they complained about my father's workers and he complained about their dogs on and off for a while. It was all harmless bickering. My dad, always trying to be the funny guy, yells out his window as he's driving past. "Covering up a murder?" He laughed and drove away, hearing her say "fuck you" as he drove off. This time, when he called the police, they took it very seriously. He explained that she was cleaning the car aggressively and that it seemed like she was trying to bleach something out of the car. The next day, the PD went by to talk with the residents of the shack. The day after that, they made an arrest. After searching the shack, they found a large blood stain soaked into the plywood floor. Once the blood was seen, the wife or girlfriend crumbled and told the police everything. It was her husband or boyfriend, and the victim. The victim's name was Rich. He had gone over to their little house to shoot up and get high. Someone ended up accusing Rich of putting some of the dope aside for himself and things got heated. Eventually, the husband started to physically fight with Rich when he stabbed him. He bled out on the floor and died. They didn't know what to do, so they stole the Lowe's cart to move him around, loaded him into the car, wrapped him in the tarp, and pushed his body down the hill. They ditched the cart, thinking the river would wash it down far enough that it wouldn't be found. My dad and Hank sat in their car while they watched the police arrest Don, the suspected murderer. I'll put a link in the description that reported on the events. My dad says that he's going to start a PI business. Yeah, right, because he solved a murder all on his own. Anyways, thanks for listening. This story happened to me recently on a Friday night. I was home alone playing video games on my computer. My parents had just left to go to a fire banquet for work, and my girlfriend was working that night. Just after my parents left, less than a few minutes later, I thought I heard my doorbell ring. I had my headphones on, so I wasn't sure if I had heard correctly or not, but I figured maybe my parents forgot something and they came back. So I got up, went to my front door, and looked through the peephole, but it was too dark to see anyone, so I went ahead and opened the door, still thinking it's probably just my parents. But when I looked outside, I saw a dark hooded man walking down the sidewalk in front of my house, and when he saw me open my door, he turned around and started walking back towards me. Immediately, red flags started going off because we don't typically get visitors, especially this late at night. And this guy had his hands stuffed into the pockets of his hoodie with his hood up. As he got closer, I asked him if he was the one who rang my doorbell, but he didn't respond, he just kept walking towards me. I asked him again. He's now standing 2 to 3 feet away from me. He responds with, yeah, I rang your doorbell. This guy didn't seem like he was in his right mind, and honestly, I could tell that he was up to something by his body language and the way that he was dressed. The conversation was just really weird altogether. He wasn't really answering any of my questions with a timely response, as if he were thinking really hard about what he was doing. So I asked him, "Who are you? You look really familiar. Is your name Matt?" To sum this up quickly, Matt is an old friend I've known since elementary school. He used to come by my house to play football and go swimming sometimes. But it's been almost 3 years since I've seen him. We'd stopped hanging out long before we graduated high school. He responded with, "Who are you though?" At this point, I had one foot inside my house and one foot outside, ready for anything in case he tried something. After telling him my name and asking again who he was and if he needed something, there was a short pause before he suddenly lunged at me with his right hand holding a long, sharp kitchen knife. He got the knife less than half a foot away from my stomach. It all happened so fast I yelled, "Dude, what the fuck?" and stepped out of the way just in time to slam the door in his face and lock it. I quickly pulled out my cell phone and dialed 911 as I looked out my door's peephole to see what he was doing, and here's the weirdest part. He was walking down my driveway like nothing happened. He wasn't even running. I told the police what happened and they were quick to respond. During the police interview, I told them what happened and who I think the guy was. When my parents got home, my mom decided to look up Matt on Facebook to see if I can identify him, and sure enough, he was the same guy. The police went to his house and his mom had told him that he was just released from a mental hospital and he was wandering around the neighborhood. Apparently, his dad had been out looking for him. They found him the next night wandering the neighborhood again and took him back to the mental hospital. My brother had told me that the same night that Matt had tried to stab me, he also had tried to add my brother to a cult group on Facebook. My brother, of course, thought that was a bit strange and declined the invitation. After the incident, he decided to check his Facebook profile and, come to find out, Matt is completely insane. He's so brainwashed that he thinks every white person in the world is evil and we should all be removed from this planet. If you want pictures, my brother screenshotted some of the recent posts on his Facebook. I'll show them on screen right now. He also posted some links to YouTube videos he had been watching and I found them really disturbing. So my message to you, all you corpse viewers, is to listen to these stories and learn from them. Because I can honestly say if I had not been a regular listener to Corpse's videos, I might not have been so quick to react and might not be here today. I'm horrified at the thought of what would have happened if my mom or girlfriend were home that night and they answered the door instead of me. I can feel them moving inside me. I can't stop it. I don't want to go. Bye.